Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Pod.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party Network. On today's show, as we reach the end of July, just like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in 500 Days of Summer, we move from summer to autumn. The blockbuster season is coming to an end and time has come to move into festival season, kicking off in a couple of weeks with the Edinburgh International Film Festival. I'm your co-host Dallas King, and with me as always is Lee Hutchison, and we're going to discuss the press launch for this year's festival before picking our must-see films from the programme. So Lee, how was the launch for you? An in-person launch? We talked at the launch about how you'd made it through for one screening at the Glasgow Film Festival. So I'm guessing this is probably your first in-person festival since London last year. But you were kind of working at the same time, so.
Yeah, definitely. It was a kind of nice sense of normality. I was so used to them being sort of like during the morning, having kind of breakfast, having the program. It was kind of an interesting one because I suppose like the schedule had been announced like 7-8 hours earlier. So usually when you get to these things, you've got the mental thing of like, do I start looking through the program before they give the presentation? Do I start having a wee little flick through the program, going, oh, that film's there. Oh, God damn, that film I really want to see is not kind of there. So that was kind of taken out my hands, and it became sort of more of a good excuse to catch up with you and some friends.
Yeah, no, because I'd booked my travel down, and it was like, we invite to the launch of the programs. It was great, and then it was like you sort of see the press details of when you apply for your thing. It says, you're going to get 10 complimentary tickets to use towards films. Program will go live booking will go live at 12 p.m. and you're like, 12 p.m. That's interesting because the launch is at 6, and then it's like, oh, the program's going live in the morning, and it's like, that seems counterintuitive to every other press launch I have ever been to, where the press get first look and write up the articles, and then it's announced to the public a little bit later on. But no, essentially the program launch was, essentially, like you say, a chance for, people involved in the festival and in the Edinburgh art scene and film critics, film reviewers to come together and celebrate the fact that we are going to have an in-person festival in the end. We got a brief introduction to the program, and the usual sort of thanks to all the sponsors and staff and stuff like that from the new creative director Christy Matheson, and that was about it. It was like, just enjoy yourselves. We're here in the rather odd location of gin distillery. There was lots of very nice Indian onion bhajis, and I believe you sampled the excellent haggis pakoras as well. So yeah, it was more of a sort of just a celebration of the fact that yes, we're going to have an in-person festival again, which is is different, but I was all for it. It was great to catch up with familiar faces and stuff like that. There was a celebrity turned up at the end. We did see Honor Swintonburn turn up to enjoy the free drink and nibbles. I got a couple of complimentary mini gin bottles to take away, even though I don't really drink gin, but got them from my wife. Why not? But yeah, what did you make of the the vibe of the launch? Because I did tweet that it looks like the festival should be in good hands this year because they have managed to organize a piss up in a brewery / distillery.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it now that it's been announced. It's the my attempts to really dive into the back catalogue have been delayed by work and travel, but it's now that kind of period. It's close. We can sort of start to get like the guides out, get through the highlighters, pick what we want to see. People
You've
have
got your accreditation confirmed.
Yeah, have the usual piss and moan. People like, oh, this film's not in, that I really wanted to see, and that sort of like hype of like, oh, I can't wait to see Crimes of the Future or something like that. And then you kind of flick through it. Right, is it there? No, it's not there. And then you're like, oh, it's not there, and then you're a bit annoyed, and then you're then right, okay, but what's there, and going from there. So there's kind of like a process that you kind of go through there. So that's mentally kicked off, and I'm now at the stage where it's like, right, time to start scheduling kind of my trip.
Yeah, what's it? The five sort of stages of grief. There's like sort of anger, denial, and then sort of moving through to acceptance. So you're like joy. It's like, yes, that's there. Then you're like, oh, that isn't there, and then you forget about something, and someone mentions the fact that you're like, it's when you said bodies, and I was like, oh yeah, no, we thought bodies was going to be in there, didn't we? But this year is the 75th edition of the world's longest continual running film festival. One would argue achieved through minimal online edition in 2020 due to the pandemic, but that's just splitting hairs. First full edition of the festival to return to its August slot in around about 10-15 years or something. They sort of moved to June to sort of basically distance themselves from the Fringe, the book festival, everything else that was happening in the city, to be like the main focus of what was going on. But they've moved back. Will it be for better or worse? I guess time will tell. We don't want to prejudge anything at this point, but obviously, before the press launch, they had announced the opening and closing films. So this year will open with Charlotte Wells' After Sun, which did gangbusters at Cannes. One of the few films, I think, to get universally good criticism out of the Cannes Film Festival, and will close with After Yang on the 20th. Now, anyone who's a fan of this podcast and our other podcasts will know that those two films are being distributed by A24, so for obvious reasons, neither of us are going to select those for what you should go and see, because they will obviously be given, actually technically we already have given After Yang a full episode, but we might, hopefully, maybe if director Kogonada comes to the festival, we might be able to get an interview with him, but we will obviously be doing a full episode on After Sun, so we're going to go through the rest of the fest and pick out ones that we think that we're going to watch and that you might want to watch as well. Obviously, as we sort of hinted, there are some titles that weren't there, some of the bigger titles that we thought might be Bodies, Crimes of the Future, which are coming up. Some other titles of, obviously, maybe due to the now position of Edinburgh Film Festival in August, are maybe waiting for launching in London in a couple of months after, in October. So I mean, this is I think the point of a film festival is, yes, there are big titles which people go there to see, but they're not on all the time. And basically, if you're a film reviewer like yourself, you've got large gaps between the big films that you've booked to go and see, and so it's time to take a chance, take a risk, try and find something that will be the new hidden gem. Like Lee, I remember you saying that you only came to Run with me because I'd kind of recommended it. You had a couple of spare hours, and it was one of your favourite films from the London Film Festival a couple of years ago. So I've obviously I got a highlighter pen and took the brochure up with me on the train back afterwards. So I've already gone through and kind of figured out what I might want to be watching. But you have managed to quickly, briefly go through the brochure and pick out at least three that you think you're going to watch. Is that right?
Yeah, I've yesterday alone I was on a trains for about 6 or so hours, but I didn't obviously have my film festival stuff with me, so I should have brought my highlighter and book with me then. But and even heading down to London last Thursday, I was ended up having to work on a presentation I enjoyed a Pret sandwich on the train journey going down. So yeah, it's kind of got to the time this morning where I got up nice and early, made breakfast and started to dive into it. And yeah, there was certainly quite a few things that I thought, I wonder if I'll get my 3 at first, but yeah, I've managed to kind of whittle it down. So yeah, this is hopefully the 3 that I'm most excited for, and maybe hopefully 3 that maybe you haven't picked as well. But the first one I've gone for is the Anonymous Club. So in addition to loving film, I've loved music as well, and Courtney Barnett as a singer I've enjoyed quite a lot over the past few years. So it's one of these ones where when you sort of start to read its description, you're like, oh shit, this does not sound good. Where it's like, it's an anti-rock doc shot on 16mm, and you're like, oh, is this going to be a little bit on the pretentious side? But I'm pretty confident that it's going to be really interesting. You know, Courtney Barnett does fantastic music videos. You know, her kind of long time director on that, Danny Cohen, is actually the one that's going to be directing this documentary. So, you know, it's a mixture about sort of how this introvert has become someone that kind of goes round on sort of, you know, to these incredible music festivals, but at the same time she often sort of comes up a little bit short when it comes to doing the promotional side, and there's often some controversies there. So, you know, this is going to be sort of that mixture of like kind of footage that's been made over the past few years. She's someone that kind of does her own sort of dictaphone, you know, insights and so on when she's on tour. So I think it'll be an interestingly put together documentary, and you know, you always hope with things like this it brings in a new audience. And I think for quite a while now, when we get these music documentaries, you know, you watch them, you think, well, I didn't really need to see that in a cinema or something like that. It's a very standard, you know, documentary where it's just like, you know, point and shoot, you know, oh, this person did amazing stuff. And, you know, the things I liked about the Sparks Brothers documentary was, you know, the insight into the band, their process, them as people, you know, the traditional stuff where it was just like, here's a celebrity telling us how much they love Sparks and how much Sparks were his hidden gem. Don't care for that stuff. So I think this one is going to very much lean into the telling a story of an artist and their journey, and someone that, again, similar to Sparks but in a completely opposite direction, doesn't perhaps get the credit that they deserve. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting a good insight into Courtney Barnett and learning more about this musician that fills my Spotify.
Yeah, I think I've actually seen her at a gig. I think it was All Points East in London. My wife wanted to see Nick Cave, and I think one of the earlier sort of sporting acts was Courtney Barnett, and yeah, with like Patti Smith and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I am aware of her. And yeah, no, so yeah, I guess it's sort of bringing mind to me. I think of someone like Joaquin Phoenix, when you sort of say that they're incredible, you know, they're when they do what they do, they're very, very good. But it's the other side that comes with the fame, you know, like the promotion and stuff like that. Joaquin Phoenix, someone very sort of clearly uncomfortable with having to do the press tours and the press circuits and the interviews and stuff like that. So sort of seeing how someone copes with that might be really interesting, and certainly potential for a more real sort of documentary that looks at something that is not like these glossy almost sort of like puff pieces. Like I enjoyed the Jennifer Lopez documentary that was on, but it was very much a like, isn't Jennifer Lopez great? And it doesn't really tell us much new about them and stuff like that. It is still clearly under their control, and they are shaping how it was formed. You know, you like something where you get to see a bit more of the real person underneath, and not exactly what, you know, they would want people to see. So yeah, no, absolutely looking forward to that one. I think I will add that one to my list as well. So as with all these lists, if you've ever listened to one of these episodes before, Lee and I, we always do our lists and secrets. We don't know if there's going to be any crossover, so we'll have to see on this one. But for me, the first one is going to be Flux Gourmet by Peter Strickland. I had a feeling that this one was going to be on the festival lineup. Filmhouse in particular love a Peter Strickland film. I also love a Peter Strickland film. He's the director behind Barbarian Sound Studio, Duke of Burgundy, In Fabric. So here, the first line of the in the brochure says, Peter Strickland is a very messy boy. Continuing his peculiar brand of kink-filled art cinema, his latest dark comedy depicts a performance art trio participating in an artist residency in the Sonic Catering Institute, narrated in Greek by the Institute's in-house writer, who is having severe bowel problems, and provoked by an imperious creator, Gwendolyn Christie. The group's interpersonal strife leads them to increasingly extreme acts, from the impeccably designed title cards to the performances. Flux Gourmet is an irresistible ode to the perils of creativity. Yeah, that sounds right up my street. I mean, Peter Strickland could debut a new film with no information about it, and I'd still want to see it. I think he has just an incredible grasp of like the visual style, something that is like so at times incredibly sort of difficult to watch and pushes boundaries, but I'm always drawn in by what he does. You can immediately tell, I think, that you're watching a Peter Strickland film. And yes, no, this was, as soon as it was there, that was one of my I have to book for that one. It is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Clearly, if there is, bodily fluids and bodily acts being done, yes, I'm sure there'll probably be lots of walkouts. But that's what festivals want. They want talk of people walking out and fainting and stuff like that. It just provides a bit of extra excitement to the festival, I think.
Yeah, and there's something about Peter Strickland and festival screenings that seem to go so well together. So yeah, I loved In Fabric a few years ago, so I've been really excited to see what he would follow that up with. So that was a film, the first time I watched, I was like, oh, that was good. I liked it, I think. So I'm looking forward to going through an experience of that, probably like a 10 a.m. press screening of that one, and then coming out into the bright world and going, oh, so let's grab a Greg's and talk about that.
Well, maybe skip lunch after that one, perhaps. So what have you gone with as pick number 2?
So I've gone for one where I've mentioned it many a time on this podcast. I'm always looking for like new, unique sci-fi that has something to say. Like it's just, over the years, sci-fi has just been reduced down to let's do some action and, space adventure and, things like that. But this film, Lola, really kind of stood out for me. So set in 1941, and a couple of music-loving sisters build a machine called Lola, which can intercept radio and TV broadcasts from the future. Initially using it to become the first fans of David Bowie, I'm like, yeah, immediately into that. Yeah, David Bowie, yeah, this is definitely sounding like my sort of people. These things happen. World War II kicks off, and the siblings...
Hate it when that happens.
Yeah, they decide to use their special TV to help with sort of military intelligence to fight against the Nazis. So it's sort of, and very much, I think I've gone on a trend. We did 16mm for the last screening. In this one, they're using distressed black and white film stock to kind of create these sorts of things, and diving into a mixture of sort of genuine kind of like TV archives and making their own sort of fake celluloid newsreel, and then you throw that in with synth pop songs from the Divine Comedy. It's one that immediately was like, yep, I'm immediately booking a ticket to that one. So Lola for me.
Yep, I've got that one highlighted under there. Yep. If the premise wasn't enough, it was the fact that it features songs from the Divine Comedy's Neil Hannon. Who, if you're not familiar with him, he was a great artist who did some fantastic songs in the late 90s, and also the writer of the Father Ted theme tune. So there you go. So I have got that one, but I have not got that one on my list. So we're going good so far. So second one for me, Special Delivery by D. Mink Park. And this is under the Night Moves strand of the festival. So buckle up for a vehicular thriller from Korea. Yep, I'm in. Yep, I love a Korean film. So Parasite star Park So-dam excels as black market cabbie Eun-ha, who drives criminals at breakneck speed. Her solitary cat-loving life is interrupted when she's left in charge of a fugitive son. Can she protect the child from crooked cops and vicious gangsters? A female-centric spin on petrolhead staples like Drive, The Driver, and The Transporter. This is a breezy action cocktail of cuteness and brutality, with high adrenaline car chases and neon-lit ambience enhanced by a pulsing electronic score. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yep. So this is the star of Parasite. I think was it Jessica, Only Child, Illinois, Chicago, something like that. Was that the? Yes, that was it. That's the one. Yep. So basically her getting her sort of own sort of action, sort of Jason Statham film. Yes, absolutely. Korean films are always, they have a unique style to their action, and this is going to be probably very stylized, brutal, action-packed, just this will be one that, it's going to play really well with the crowd, I think. Again, one that just sort of ticks all the boxes. I believe it's getting a release later on at the end of August from Signature Entertainment. So, yeah, no, high hopes for this.
I thought she was a real standout in Parasite, and so much so that I started following her on Instagram as well. So I feel that I need to make sure that I'm not just following her because she's this beautiful actress. I need to also maybe supporting her work as well. So yep, you've made a good case for that one.
Excellent. So your third and final pick for the fest?
Yeah, so this one is not shot on old film stock or things like that, unfortunately, but it dives into sort of the creative process. And for one, this one kind of made me think a little bit about my work. So as I've kind of mentioned before, I work sort of in the kind of the field of autism and neurodivergence. And when I sort of just saw the one sentence kind of insight into this film, and I was like, oh, I want to learn more about that. And it's sort of about a workaholic kind of sound designer who feels her brain is starting to slip out of rhythm, hearing everything slightly offbeat, rendering her unable to do her job and isolating her further from her family, friends, and her ex-partner. So when you work in sort of sound design, having your audio in your head go out of sync makes it probably very difficult to do your job and your passion. So I'm really interested to kind of see this one. Part of my job involves like helping people that have disabilities and health conditions get like the adjustments and changes that are put into to their work and so on, and how difficult that can be for some people to even achieve something like that. And the idea, when I was just thinking about it, where we've all done it. Maybe we've watched a pirated film, or we've watched something on Netflix, but there's maybe a slight problem with our internet, and the audio is that fraction out of the thing, and you're watching it, and it irritates you and annoys you. But then I was just starting to imagine that was your everyday life, and you were just that fraction of a second out of step, and how difficult that would be, as a job and so on. So I think this could be an interesting one, and it sounds like it could be quite an uncomfortable watch. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think it could be very interesting.
I've got that one highlighted as well. And yeah, no, I think that it sort of intrigued me. I feel like I watched a film with a similar sort of premise about a sound designer who starts to like hear certain things, and whether it's like hidden messages or things aren't translating as they should in her head and stuff like that, and she sort of goes down this sort of deteriorating mental spiral. So this is a different film, but yeah, no, I think this is one where in a cinema where it's going to be interesting to see how the sound design plays out, where if it puts you in her mindset as well, where you start to then question, hang on, what was that, and like it must be, yeah, it would be an incredibly disconcerting feeling. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that's portrayed on the big screen. But yeah, an excellent choice, and another one which is on my list already. So my final one is going to be a film called Axiom, and yeah, this sort of again is one where the description sort of leapt out at me, and yeah, it just sounded like that sounds like one of those sort of European films which, yeah, it's going to be right up my street. So, a handsome museum worker leads a group of his colleagues out into the country for a weekend sailing trip, but something is not right. Friend or foe, grifter or sociopath. In the standout psychological drama set in Austria, um, Maritz von Truffels gives a startling performance as a man without boundaries, best for audiences not to know too much going in, but for those fascinated by pathological liars, this character study of a darkly charismatic fantasist will be catnip. So, I mean, the first thing that sort of came to my mind was something that's sort of like sort of funny games, and where this person is basically playing with a group of people. What's right. You all know that sort of person who, you're on a night out, or you're part of a group who sort of is like the life and soul of the party, but then maybe takes things too far or pushes people's buttons and you get really annoyed by, but you're then stuck with them for an extended period of time. I think this is going to be one of those sort of really sort of awkward watches, similar to something like sort of Force Majeure, something like that, which gets people talking about who's in the right, who's in the wrong, and yeah, just sort of seeing what sort of crazy dark places this character is going to take us to. Yeah, I'm very excited by that one.
I can't believe it. We've got 6 different choices on here, so that is a promising sign. There's amazing how many times when we done like, was it like London or Glasgow? It's like, oh, I already got that one. Oh, damn, you picked that one as well. We've done very well here.
I know we might have chanced our luck if we'd say maybe picked 5 each. Who knows? There might have been crossover there. But I mean, apart from the sort of films, is there anything else that you're really sort of looking forward to from the festival? Obviously, the Q&A list hasn't been updated yet, so we don't know what guests are going to be attending. Hopefully, that'll be up soon. But are you hopeful to get back on the red carpet, get a few interviews in the bag?
I'm just mostly looking forward to just being able to, I mentioned it numerous times this year. I just feel like the consistency and quality of films coming out this year has been severely lacking, and I'm kind of just mostly looking forward to just being able to sit for sort of 5 days. I'm overdue a nice big holiday, and just I'm looking forward to just having a nice summer in Edinburgh, being able to watch films during the day, then enjoy the social aspect of the festival. The Fringe, the film, the book festival, all in the evenings. I've got shows on in the evenings after some of these screenings, which will be good. It's going to be a nice mix of stuff, and I think for me, I think having it in August has a lot of positives. But I say that as someone that lives here in Edinburgh, and I can go to the film festival and go to these other things, and I know I've got a home to go back to, and I just feel that it's not just the film festival, but it's a lot of things. It's an expensive thing to do, and the cost of hotels, accommodations, even people's spare beds end up chucked on apps and so on, where people can spend crazy money to sleep on a spare bed. It's I know as someone that lives in here that I can truly enjoy all these things, but I'm looking forward to that. But at the same time, I'm a bit gutted some people won't be able to share in that experience and probably be cut out of what has been something that they can maybe afford or become a bit of a regular thing this past few years.
Yeah, no, I have to obviously say thank you very much for offering me your couch for free. You heard it here. I'm just going to say that. If he tries to charge me, I'll refer back to this podcast. You all heard it.
I'll edit it out.
Oh, of course, damn it. But yeah, no, I am looking forward to it. I mean, I don't think I've actually ever been to Edinburgh during the Fringe, so it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we have a situation now where the Edinburgh Film Festival is essentially going to be set up in 2 camps, where you've got films at Cameo and Filmhouse on one side of Princes Street, essentially, and then the other camp is the Everyman and the View at the other side. Now, I once had to run from a press screening to host a Q&A in about 20 minutes, and so I did this sort of cut through the Grass Market over sort of down the Royal Mile through Waverley and the other side. Now, it was just about doable in June. Trying to do that, I imagine, during the Fringe will probably be nigh on impossible. So, yeah, we've got that extra wrinkle when planning your schedule is checking. It's like, okay, the times match up, but where are the films? What side of town are they on? Are you having to run from the film house to the View for a screening and stuff like that? So, there's a little extra wrinkle there, but at the moment, I'm sort of. I've got the first weekend planned, and then after that, I'm not really sure. I think it'll depend on our sort of press schedules, and then what we get in terms of interviews and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to get back down to it, and because the Glasgow Film Festival, I only got down for a couple of days this year, so it's going to be my first sort of full in-person festival since Venice 2020. But that was one where it was basically just film. I wasn't at the level to be hanging out on the red carpet with Kate Blanchett and all the stars. So will I get on the red carpet this year when I go to Venice? Julianne Moore? Who knows? I'm still waiting to find out. Actually, next week we find out what's at Venice. So yeah, but yeah, still lots going on in the film world. Comic-Con happening this weekend. Marvel announcing a stream of things, 11 new things every year for the next 3 years. It's like, oh, give it a rest. I thought film festivals were busy, and then you look at Marvel's schedule. So, yeah, did you happen to catch any of that this morning over your morning coffee?
Yeah, no, I was too busy looking at the Edinburgh Film Festival stuff, but I did notice,
stay on brand.
I was sitting there thinking, like, who's Kurg? Like, people were like, oh, has he been in things already? Like, I don't know what's going on and so on. So I'll need to watch one of these YouTube primers to explain what's going on ahead. Like, I know that we're ending phase 4, and then we're moving into this phase 5 and 6 are all announced, and it's going to be the multiverse saga, and it's
I thought we were already in the multiverse saga. That's why I was confused. It's like, it felt like Kevin Feige was like, yeah, phase 4 is ending. It's like, are you just saying that because you didn't know what was going on? It's like there seems to be a lot of it's like shuffling around behind the scenes and stuff like that. But in terms of Kang and his thing, it's like to give you an idea of where they're kind of at. It's like someone was like, "So hey, you're Kang. You're going to be in the Avengers movie's all about you," and he's like, "Is it?" And then someone shows him the phone. It's like, "Yeah, look, it says Avengers Continuity." He's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And it's like, they don't seem to tell anyone anything. But the thing that I think I'm most excited about is probably the description of what I heard about Ant-Man. And you know how there was always this thing where people seem to know a hell of a lot about that final battle in Endgame, and it's like, how did they know? Nobody was there. It wasn't like live streamed for the world. And then there was a bit in Miss Marvel about how Ant-Man had apparently recorded a podcast about it, and that's how people got their information. But apparently in the new film, Paul Rudd's Scott Lang has become a huge celebrity because he has written a book and done a podcast about his time as an Avenger, and apparently his ego has gotten even bigger than Giant Man, and it's put him at odds with his daughter and the Wasp. So I'm looking forward to seeing sort of Paul Rudd as an egotistical, as basically one of the very few Avengers sort of still around in this multiverse. So it's going to be interesting. I like his character progression, so that's what I'm looking forward to, because more Paul Rudd is always a good thing in my book.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I know we spoke a few weeks ago about like, oh, they actually are doing a Black Panther movie in like a few months' time. And I must admit, I thought the trailer was very well done. It certainly gave me more, Avatar hype watching that than probably the other Avatar sequels. So yeah, I'm certainly more interested in that now, but still with some reservations. But yeah, lots on the horizon. Whether I'll watch all these TV shows, etc. I'll certainly go see all the films, but the TV shows I find really difficult to stay on top of. But I'm sure it will be middling to mediocre to occasionally fun and enjoyable. So I'll take those odds.
Absolutely. And I'll watch the TV shows for you, and I'll brief you on anything that you need to know going into it. So So Edinburgh Film Festival kicks off on Friday the 12th of August. We'll be there for the duration of it, bringing you all the hot gossip and film reviews from then. So in the meantime, if you're going to go yourself, grab your brochure, grab your highlighter, hopefully take our recommendations, but let us know if there's anything we've missed and we should make a must-see when we're down there.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.